Is Crash Bandicoot 4 actually gonna have multiplayer? Let's talk about it.
Whoa!
What's up guys, Canadian Guy here, and back with a brand new Crash Bandicoot 4 video. Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, is coming closer and closer to release every single day. And as we get closer and closer, Activision is revealing more and more details. But sometimes there are details that are revealed through third parties that aren't quite as intentional. Kind of like the PlayStation and Xbox digital storefronts. The digital storefronts are given upfront information about the game before even the public knows. The reason for this is that so they can add whatever important details and tags that need to be stated for the customer to know upfront what they're getting before they even pre-order the game. Stuff like whether there's going to be online play, microtransactions, and how many players can actually play the game. Now, there was some recent drama over the Xbox store that said that the game would have in-app purchases, and people assumed that there would be microtransactions in Crash Bandicoot 4, but it has been debunked by Toys for Bob themselves, saying there is absolutely no microtransactions in the game. But I also wanted to make a quick note saying that while the Xbox store said in-app purchases, PlayStation Store didn't, so the likelihood of the tag being added to the Xbox Store was probably due to the totally tubular skins with the digital pre-order and likely was kind of a mistake. However, even though the Xbox Store was the only one that said that there would be in-app purchases, which was very wrong, there is something that pops up on both of the digital storefronts that definitely is something to pay attention to. If we were to look at the PlayStation or Xbox pages for the game, and we look at the number of players that can play the game at once, we can see it says that it plays up to 4 players. This is very interesting. This means that the game can have up to 4 players playing at a time. There are a few questions that stem from this statement. One that I think I can almost definitely answer, and another one that is completely up in the air. So let's get to answering the first one with utmost basic certainty. The first one is, does this game have online play? Well, if we were looking at a game like Fortnite and look at its page on one of the digital storefronts, the tag says 1 player, but then has a tag that says 2 to 99 players on a network, which means that only 1 person can play at a time per console, but that player can play with up to 99 other players online. Crash only has a 4-player tag and no signs of any network play. Also, to really drive in the point here, when you go to the description, you can see it says offline multiplayer, 2 to 4 players. So what this means is that Crash Bandicoot 4 will have couch play that is up to 4 players, which is a really cool feature that we don't see enough of nowadays. But how exactly is that going to work? Crash Bandicoot is a single player platformer. How can there be 2 to 4 players playing at once? Could Toys for Bob be taking a chapter out of Mind Over Mutant's book and bringing in co-op play to these levels? I honestly don't think so. Mind Over Mutant and Crash to the Titans gameplay was a lot more wide and had a beat-em-up combat, which worked for couch multiplayer because you could team up on an enemy or an objective. Crash 4, from what we've seen thus far, though it seemingly has open areas, is still extremely linear and very Naughty Dog inspired, so I think co-op play is out of the window. Plus, it doesn't explain the fact that you could have 4 players playing at once. Could you imagine 4 people trying to play a Crash Bandicoot platforming game on the same screen? Yeah, no thanks. So, what could possibly be happening in the next Crash game that brings 4-player couch play? Well, I decided to look at Crash's history. What Crash game allowed up to 4 players to play at once? The answers were Crash Nitro Kart, Crash Tag Team Racing, and, of course, Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. But these were all racing games and spin-offs. They're not going to include an entire kart racer, especially without online play in Crash Bandicoot 4, right? That doesn't really make sense. So I asked myself, was there any other game that could have a 4-player mode from Crash's past? Turns out there is one. Though the game was technically only 2 players due to its limited technology at the time, it could easily become a 4-player game today. It's one you likely have recognized because it's a game that is memed upon constantly. That is Crash Bash. Crash Bash was yet another spin-off Crash game, but was the first Crash title that wasn't developed by Naughty Dog, generally having a, well, mixed reception within the fanbase, but having a die-hard cult following. It was based around a bunch of cheap but fun Mario Party-like 4-player minigames while trying to jam in some sort of an awkward story in between. While Crash Bash is a fun little game, for it to be released as a full title would come off as actually kind of cheap. But it got me thinking, what if this 4-player couch multiplayer mode for Crash Bandicoot 4 was, well, essentially a Crash Bash mode? I honestly don't think there's enough substance in Crash Bash to have a full AAA studio developing it and making it into a full-fledged game, not to mention with its mixed reception. But as a fun side little couch multiplayer mode, this would absolutely work. They could bring back old minigames, as well as introduce new ones in a modern day splendor, satisfying the Crash Bash fans while also being able to not interrupt the mainline Crash game's development. Also, imagine skins and the new playable characters in the mainline games as playable options in this couch multiplayer mode. The possibilities here are, well, almost endless. Now, I think this would be a great and charming way to continue to support the Crash community and their love for this franchise, supporting and bolstering all aspects of it. Now, I could be wrong, of course, and this might be an entirely new game mode that has nothing to do with Crash Bash in any way, shape, or form. I just think that this would be a really cool way to bring in and remember Crash Bash as a fun little multiplayer component for a mainline Crash game. However, what is confirmed is the fact that allegedly there is going to be a couch multiplayer, and honestly, if we were to look at Crash Bandicoot's past, this is one of the few ways I could see it actually working as a side little couch co-op little option. But what do you guys think? Should the multiplayer be a Crash Bash mode or something completely different? Comment below and let me know. A huge thank you to all those who support the channel through Patreon and being a sponsor on the channel. If you'd like to help it out, check out the links in the description below, where you can buy some CGE merch or become a Patreon. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more gaming and nostalgic content. Thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next video.